guys, today we're gonna be watching scary videos. If we get out of our seat, then we have to end the video and we lose. So make sure to like and subscribe, and you're probably cooked if you watch this before your bedtime. So make sure to like and subscribe. See ya. Make sure to
comment down what videos the creepiest.
Yeah, comment down what videos the creepiest.
I'm just watching
shadow
this real
stretches
quick.
toward you, you are already too close. 3. Avoid eye contact. If their eyes are glowing, completely black, or show your own face instead, look away. It's not a child,
I'm
it's a
glued to
baby.
my seat, guys.
4. If they appear outside your home later, do not let them in. Even if they knock and say, "It's cold out here," ignore it. If you open the door, they will never leave. If the child vanishes the moment you blink, they are no longer outside. They are already in your house.
That's weird. That's a goofy awe. Well, then watch this. Don't watch alone. If you guys get scared,
The following video, a recent university graduate was in his new home when he decided to document what he believed to be a haunting. Over the past few days, he had been hearing thudding sounds from a room nearby to his bedroom and knew that nobody or nothing should have been in the household with him. On this particular evening, it started again, and he came to a strong decision. He was not going to tolerate this anymore and was going to investigate instead. With that, he took his camera and he left his room. This is what he was able to find.
Hey guys, it's Blackman96, and I've been hearing some bumping noises upstairs, like right where my room is. I'm just gonna take a look at.
you could probably hear Frey talking.
Okay. What the f was that? You guys hear that, right?
Love you. Wait, did you open it? You did open it? No.
Okay.
Yes,
That bottle
I'm
of
just gonna
Windex
go open
right
one of
here.
my snacks. This one you need scissors to open.
I left it there this morning. It was right there. Alright. My room's kind of messy right now because lizards and shit like that. I don't know that I'm supposed to. Well, can you do that again? Fuck.
The thudding led him to a room where all sorts of items had moved, and it was obvious that something had been in there. For a brief moment, he believed that a squatter or somebody along those lines had infiltrated the building, but that was far from what was actually going on. A piece of china slid across the desk, and bravely, the man recording the incident asked the poltergeist to do this another time. To his fortune, it listened and threw the china cup off from the counter whilst on camera. After this whole situation, he sprinted back to his room and tucked himself away in bed, hoping to sleep all of this torment away. He was able to do this for one night, with no disruptions entering his place of rest, but it would only be one day later that the spirit took it upon himself to enter his bedroom. The time was 7 o'clock in the evening, and the man was just watching some television when this happened.
I just came home and I heard some footsteps, some bumping noises upstairs. So I ran down my camera and I felt some wind blowing. So I started to film. And it was like in this direction over here. It was like the curtains were moving over there and the window's shut. So I'm just gonna film over here and see if I can get a response to whatever's moving. Okay. If you're here,
Trevor's just
Give
doing
us a
something.
sign.
He's not scared.
me a sign. Okay.
For scary shorts.
You promise I'm not gonna run this.
I don't like scary videos. I like scary shorts.
We're gonna watch Scary Shorts. Okay, I wanna watch the scary
Dreams
video.
you should never ignore. Dreaming of getting married. This could mean you are marrying a djinn. Dreaming of your old home. This means you are reverting back to old patterns or things that no longer serve you. Dreaming of looking at yourself in a mirror. This could be a sign of something starting back at you. Dreaming of someone you've never met. This could be your subconscious telling you someone is watching you. Dreams you should never ignore.
You get scared, you lose, part 2. This video is terrifying.
You get scared, you lose challenge. I'm spookier. I am scarier. I am creepier. I am creepier.
You get scared, you lose, part 2. This video is terrifying.
You get scared.
What happens if you wake up in someone else's dream and you try to escape but you can't? Then listen carefully. You must follow these rules. 1. Do not speak your real name out loud. In dreams that are not yours, names hold power, and yours could be taken and worn like a mask. 2. If you hear a voice whispering, "Wake up, don't follow it," that's not someone trying to help you. It's the dream itself trying to keep you forever. 3. If the sky starts to flicker like a broken TV, lie down immediately and close your eyes. This is your only chance to slip out. 4. Before you escape, whisper, "It's not mine," 3 times. Loud enough for the dream to hear you, but quiet enough that the dreamer doesn't. Some dreams don't want to end, and some dreamers don't want to wake up alone. What happens?
I don't know why. I already forgot it.
That's goofy.
He says this picture made me believe in ghosts. Here, you see the dad, you see the kid.
Okay, where's the ghost though?
If you look in the top left,
Oh shit,
there's a woman.
Actually, that's not a person. That's just like
The wife is taking the picture. The wife confirmed on Facebook there were only 3 people there. Now this is where it gets weird because on the news a year ago,
Yeah.
a person died in that lake.
and it looks like
You
you're.
look what it looks like.
Yo.
It's supposed to look exactly
Oh,
like this lady.
Bro, you wanna fucking look at it?
I know it's weird, man.
You think pictures hold spirit?
I think
Play that weird spooky. Not scary. That one at least.
That's weird.
This one isn't scary. This one's
Video,
just
you watch a
super
terrifying Cursed Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
Ooh, the music. Who are you? Yeah, you notice that? Something's so off about claymation. Huh? Oh my god!
Too violent. We're probably gonna get banned if we watch that.
So, I wouldn't get scared of this video, but I would probably get nightmares of this video, but...
I would.
Yeah, I would get nightmares.
Why do I watch this then?
Jesse, who is that?
Oh.
Dude, this guy's back. This isn't how you treat visitors at our playhouse, even if they are naughty boys.
That's weird.
I'm sorry, Petey. I just wanted to say hello.
No, you did not.
That's my own nightmare. It actually looks weird though, like doesn't look
Scary
like
video was recovered from a trail camera in the Appalachian Mountains.
Bitch, we're probably not gonna get out of our seat.
This scary video
and it died at the end. So, nothing to worry about. Just some big black monkey cheeks. My butt cheeks need a refill.
Trade else in this place. Ah.
Imagine just being lost out here. It feels like this would never end. Oh, hi. What the hell? I need to get out of here.
Hello?
If you see that, she has an, she or he has an accident in their hand.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
That's
Get up here, Carly!
Cheese bumpkin. His pet.
yeah, that's a tat.
We even looked at the person that made it.
But what?
We even knew the person that made it, and for a little bit, and they and then we found out it was their pet.
Heard his daughter talking to a doll when something absolutely unexpected happened that shocked his whole fan base. The following footage shows moments before a disaster when a father arrived at his house and saw that doors to his daughter's room were open. A little girl named Emma was talking to a doll, and watch what happened next.
What in the world? Dylan, what are you doing? Dylan.
He tried to understand what was she doing, but she wouldn't respond, and what she did next was terrifying.
Dylan, stop. Dylan, stop. Dylan, stop! Ah! Dylan, I don't know. Dylan, please stop. Please. Just listen.
Subscribe for more. He heard his daughter talking to a
That
doll
is not
when
good.
some...
It was a black dude.
It's Michael Jackson, bro. Michael Jackson is there, bro. Michael Jackson's here, bro. Michael Jackson.
He's gonna come in with that.
Michael Jackson, what are you doing?
Not scary.
It's not scary.
If it was bad, then why would there still be kids there? Not like screaming or anything. It's an edit. That looks really rare, real, and it doesn't look like a fake.
Yeah.
It looks real.
Jackson, who is that? Oh no!
Dude, this guy's back. This isn't how you treat visitors at our playhouse, even if they are naughty boys.
We're just watching this again. They might watch some videos twice.
I just wanted to say hello.
You might watch a video of what the fuck?
Why are you trying to wake up bitch? Ain't you tired?
That's some funny videos are coming.
There exists a world that you can only reach between 4:20 and 4:24 a.m. Before you travel, I must advise you of a few rules. Rule number 1, do not stop moving. The moment you stop, your exit becomes more distant, and if you stop for too long, the exit will become unreachable. Rule number 2, if you hear footsteps or running behind you, do not turn around. Just run until it stops. Rule number 3, always keep a smile on your face, no matter how much the muscles in your face hurt. Once you stop smiling, they will know you are not one of them. That's all. Good luck.
Guys, I'm just coming to
There exists
a world that you can only reach between 4:20 and 4:24 a.m. Before you travel, I must advise you of a few rules. Rule number 1, nothing is as it seems.
No, it was this one.
There
Yeah,
exists
they're
a
about the
world.
same thing.
There exists a world that you can only reach between 4:20 and 4:24 a.m. Before you travel, I must advise you of a few rules. Rule number 1, nothing is as it seems. Things may appear familiar, a childhood friend, a street you once knew, but these are mere facsimiles, designed to lure you into a false sense of security. Do not be fooled. Rule number 2, if you see any statues, do not look at them for too long, no matter how lifelike they appear. They are not statues, and they are waiting for you to notice them. Rule number 3, if you hear footsteps or running behind you, stop immediately and do not turn around. The thing, whatever it is, thrives on fear. Rule number 4, the most important rule of them all. You must leave before the 3rd chime. You will hear faint bells in the distance as time passes. The 1st chime is your warning. The 2nd is your final chance to leave. If the bells chime a 3rd time and you are still there, you have now became one with this dimension. If this happens, I'm truly sorry. There exists a world that you
I
can
don't know
only
when
reach
it's
between
4:20 to 4:24 a.m., bro.
I want to watch something. It's not scary, it's
Michael Jackson, bro.
funny. Before you almost said Michael Jordan. My butt cheeks jiggle when I fart.
I said not to say
I'm excited for your folks to get here.
Me too. And their 5 cats.
Who travels with?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
My name's Brandon White, and I used to get food from the McDonald's restaurant close to my house every day. A couple of months ago, I walked in to get something and was attended by a new female employee named Mary. She was middle-aged, had short brown hair, and was slightly overweight. While I waited for my order, she tried to get to know me, making small talk. I didn't mind at the time. She seemed nice, and there was nothing odd about our conversation. After giving me my sandwich, I left, not knowing that visiting McDonald's that day would lead to my biggest mistake ever. The next few days after meeting her weren't that different from the first. But as more days went by, I began to notice something strange about Mary. For starters, Mary was always the one taking my orders. This was unusual for McDonald's. To make things worse, the conversations she tried to have with me only became weirder and left me uncomfortable in most situations. She would say strange things like how I looked so sexy and tasty, and sometimes ask me questions that no employee should have been interested in. Everything about Mary's behavior was odd. She looked almost 10 years older than me and didn't strike me as that sort of person in any way. Eventually, I began visiting another McDonald's far away from my house, deciding against reporting Mary and getting her fired. A couple of weeks went by, and one day, I walked into the new McDonald's and saw Mary working at the counter. I was shocked and expected her to tell me if she was filling in for someone, but instead, Mary acted as if she'd never left the old McDonald's and didn't address the situation at all. She resumed her usual attempts at small talk and disturbing remarks, but I simply ignored everything she said, got my order, and left. I decided not to go to McDonald's for a while, and only had it when a few friends placed orders at their apartments. I didn't know if Mary still worked there, but I wasn't eager to find out. One afternoon, while walking home after getting groceries, someone suddenly bumped into me out of nowhere, and most of my groceries failed. I bent over to pick them up, and the woman who had bumped into me began apologizing as she joined me to pick up the groceries. When I looked up to thank her, I was shocked to see Mary standing in front of me. I remained in silence as my mind raced. Was this woman stalking me, or was this just a coincidence? After standing there in silence, Mary finally said, "Well, young man, I'm in a hurry, so sorry about that," and left, acting like she didn't know who I was. I brushed it off again as a coincidence and walked home. As I got home, I realized my house keys weren't on me, but I was in a hurry and figured I had probably left without them. So I quickly got my spare key from under the mat, dropped my groceries inside, and left to meet up with my colleagues. My coworkers and I spent a couple of hours getting drunk and playing games on our day off. I left and headed home. But as I opened my door, something about it felt different. That feeling you get when someone else has been in your home was everywhere. But I was wasted, and all I wanted to do was take a shower. So I quickly looked around
no wonder,
and headed to the bathroom.
groceries are gone.
Later that night, I was alone in my living room watching HBO when my phone rang. I was curious about who could be calling me so late at night, so I answered with a simple, "Hello?" There wasn't a voice on the other end, but I could hear someone breathing heavily for about a minute before finally hearing a whispery voice say, "Come upstairs." I ended the call immediately, assuming it was some kids playing a prank, but something about it felt off, and despite my efforts, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and how I felt someone was in my home earlier that day. About 3 minutes later, my phone rang again, and it was the same number. I simply ignored it and tried to focus on something else. That's when I heard a noise coming from upstairs. I quickly switched off the TV and decided to listen more closely to make sure I wasn't hearing anything. Sure enough, I heard a loud noise from upstairs, followed by another, and soon enough, I could tell they were footsteps, and someone was actually in my home. I quickly grabbed my phone and called the police before heading to the kitchen and grabbing a knife. The house was silent for the next few minutes, so I began to walk up the stairs slowly to make sure there was actually an intruder. As I checked each room one after the other, I began to calm down and question if I heard anything at all. Eventually, there was only one room left to check, and as I opened the door to the guest room, I was filled with a feeling of relief as all I could see was an empty room. And the sense of relief I had just gotten was quickly overcome with fear. As out of the corner of my eye, I could see a figure standing behind the door. Before I could say anything, the person jumped on me, knocking the knife out of my hand and settling on top of me, pinning both my arms under her. In that moment, all I could feel was terror as Mary looked me dead in the eyes before proceeding to grab the knife I had dropped. Mary slowly brought her head closer to me and began to sniff me, like she was taking in deep breaths. My skin began to crawl, and I began to struggle to get free, but there was no use, as Mary was a lot heavier than I was. She eventually stopped sniffing me and proceeded to say, "Oh, I missed you so much, baby. But you've been avoiding me lately. You looked so tasty today. I had to see you. And well, now I have to take a little bite." She smiled and continued, "Now, it'll hurt a little, but I'm sure you don't mind, darling." Mary quickly brought down the knife on my hand, taking my pinky finger clean off. The pain shot through my body, and I couldn't help but let out a piercing scream. Blood began to spill everywhere, and Mary couldn't hold back her laugh as she threw my finger in her mouth and chewed it down until nothing remained. At that point, I had begun to close my eyes as I slowly lost consciousness from the pain. That's when Mary said, "No, baby, don't do that. I was just about to have one of your tastier parts." She then proceeded to hold my eyelids open as she lowered the knife slowly towards my eye. Before I could begin to plead with her, police sirens filled the air, and I was immediately filled with relief. Mary quickly got off me and pointed the knife at me, saying, "No. How did they find out, baby? You didn't cause them, did you?" One look at the woman in front of me, and I could tell she was absolutely crazy. She began pacing the room and was visibly worried, so I decided it was better to play into her game than act out, as I already knew how far she was willing to go. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you waiting for me, so I called them. Just let me go down there and send them away, and I'll be right back." Mary looked at me with what seemed to be relief, and I could tell she truly believed what I had just said. She replied, "All right, honey, be quick now," and lowered the knife, letting me leave. I bolted downstairs with one thing in mind: get as far away from Mary as I could. As I stepped out of the house, I was met by a group of officers. They asked if anyone else was in the house before storming in and exiting with Mary in the next few minutes. Mary was taken away in tears as she screamed at me for betraying her and not keeping my word, confirming to the police that she was completely crazy. In the last few days, I've been informed by the authorities that Mary is wanted in several states for multiple counts of rape, assault, and suspicion of cannibalism. I was lucky enough to be the only one of her victims to survive her ordeal. That encounter still keeps me up at night, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about the first time I met Mary in McDonald's. I hope my story has helped you all realize that we really know nothing about the people who serve us and our families at McDonald's. In my case, I met a crazy serial killer who posed as a happy-go-lucky woman. But in your case, it just might be the devil who hands you your Happy Meal with a smile on their face. Hello, everyone.
That's why it's
We
called
are
a
thrilled that
happy.
you have been enjoying our videos. Your support
happy to see
means
you.
the world to us.
I'm just
If
coming
you've
up
liked
to
what
see.
you've seen, please consider liking and
just gonna go
subscribing to our channel.
if
We would love to hear which one of our
Oh,
videos is your
okay.
favorite. We're on a mission to
It's
reach
about-
100,000 members in the SSG family, and with your help, we can achieve that goal.
But
Thank you for being a part of our journey.
3 more minutes until 30 minutes.
Is that the max it said?
What?
Is that the max it said, or were you just telling me that it's about to be 30 minutes?
It's about
Christmas
30
is usually one of the best holidays of the year.
Is the max?
The kids are always happy. There's food, parties, and presents. It's really that time of year when we can leave all our problems behind and concentrate on being happy, even if it's just for a day or two. The story I'm about to tell you was just before Christmas. In those days when we were getting ready for the holidays, it was all happy times.
Please stop.
What neither I nor my children expected was that those moments of happiness would be interrupted because we had an appointment with the unknown. Something we didn't understand at the time, and still don't today, was stalking us. And you know what? It still is. If you don't know what you're up against, how can you defeat it? It all started on a snowy day. During those days, we decided to take a mini vacation and went to my parents' country house. My wife was hesitant to go since we had a lot of work to do when we got back. But the kids were on vacation from school and insisted all year to go, so we indulged them. It was only a few days before Christmas. We had already put up the Christmas tree and decorated our house in town. But the cabin still lacked some Christmas spirit. We brought some decorations to beautify the cabin a bit, but to my surprise, my parents had left us something. A human-sized Santa Claus. It looked like an animatronic, but it was very strange. It was too thin. Normally, Santa Clauses are similar to the real Santa, fat with a huge smile. But there was something weird about this one. His look was different. He looked like some Santa Claus out of some child's nightmares. I was about to put it away, but my kids saw it at the same time I did, and for some reason, they liked it. Kids really do have the weirdest tastes. Other than that,
Hey, you're
the
talking
day
about
continued
me.
as normal.
And
We spent the
Trey.
evening watching movies and
That's
eating
weird.
something as a
I
family.
mean, that's not weird.
The kids seemed very entertained, and my wife and I were very happy about it. Nothing prepared us for what would happen the next day. After spending the night sleeping comfortably, a scream woke my wife and me at the same time. It was the scream of one of our children. As soon as we woke up, we both looked out the window where the scream was coming from. My 2 children were outside, running through the snow, running away from someone. When I looked back a little further, I clearly saw their attacker. No, it couldn't be true. It was the Santa Claus animatronics I had put up yesterday. This didn't make any sense. As I watched him run in the direction of my children, I could see him walk very naturally. This was not an animatronic or anything like that.
I'm a mom and a grandmother. Biden's inflation has made my future retirement uncertain. And if
I can't say deep. I can't really say deep. I can say pretty scary, but not scary
This was not an
enough
animatronic or anything like
for
that.
me to jump on my
It
seat
moved
or
like a
even
human,
stop the
but it was
fly
so
on my
thin.
seat.
Who could
Unless
fit
it's
into
that
that
tall for
costume?
my foot to
I told
touch
my
the
wife to
ground.
call the police as soon as possible while I went to get our children and protect them from their attacker. At that point, I didn't care about bundling up or getting a gun. I had to go as soon as possible. As soon as I got out,
Just at least
I did
get
not
a
go in
gun.
the direction of my children, but towards my attacker, who for some reason was not running, but only walking in the direction of my children. I don't know what this being was or why it was attacking my children, but I knew I had to do something to stop it. With all my strength, I threw myself at it. I still thought that all this must have some explanation. Maybe it was a person disguised as a Santa. Yes, that must be it. That was the only logical explanation. A little confident from the lie I fed myself, I tried to take him down, but that's when despair and desolation took over my whole body. When I was just a few inches away from him, about to knock him down, I was overcome with a horrible feeling of fear and sadness that prevented me from moving forward. Defeated and crying, I fell to the ground, clutching my chest from the pain I felt. This was not the pain of a physical attack. It was not the pain of an illness. It was the pain one feels when one is very nervous or sad. Santa simply ignored me and kept walking in the direction of my
Why are
children.
you next to a subway?
Whatever it was, he was aware of what was happening to me. Possibly, in some way, he caused it, since he didn't flinch an inch from my attack, knowing what was going to happen. After a few seconds that felt like hours, I gathered all my strength to get up and follow him. The pain and sadness I felt at that moment was so great that even though it faded as soon as Santa left, it still haunted me. For me, I would have stayed on the ground surrounded by ice crying, but I couldn't afford the luxury. That being was after my children, and I wouldn't let them feel for a second what I felt at that moment, or worse. I got up and ran as fast as I could through the ice. My children and Santa were already far away in the forest, but the sound of their screams guided me on the right path. With every centimeter I ran, I could feel that horrible feeling taking over my body again. The pain in my chest was getting bigger and bigger. I couldn't be far away. The screams became closer than ever until, crying against a tree, I found my 2 children. In front of them, the strange figure walked slowly in their direction. As soon as I saw this image, I turned to Santa Claus. You would think that nothing had changed from the last time I did it, and ended up on the ice crying. But for me, everything had changed. This time, I was watching as the strange being was about to attack my children, and at that moment, I didn't care about anything but protecting them. I ignored the pain, the fear, the sadness, the cold. All I could see was this thing approaching my children. With a war cry, I lunged at it and knocked it to the ice. Blinded by rage, I didn't realize what was really going on. I was just hitting an empty Santa Claus doll. All the feeling of fear and desperation had vanished the moment I made contact with him. Now I was doing nothing more than hitting an inanimate object while my children cried beside me. When I realized this, I stepped aside and went to hug my children while Santa stood destroyed next to us. It was all over. Once we got back, I threw all the parts of that Santa Claus in the trash and put a new one once we got home. I'll be honest with you, the new Santa Claus didn't last more than 2 days. Maybe I was still a little paranoid, but I could swear that every once in a while, it felt like it wasn't in the same position I left it in. As if his head or limbs were moving when no one was watching. Also, I couldn't shake this feeling. This feeling of paranoia that when I was near him, I was constantly being watched. For their part, my children didn't talk about it, but I could see in their eyes that they were terrified. At first,
My wife thought everything I told her was a joke. But over time, she began to believe us. Although part of her thinks it's a strange collective paranoia. I can't blame her, and I can't blame you if you don't believe me. Not even in my wildest nightmares could I think something like this could happen. But I guess, as a human, there are things we can never understand. And you know what? It's okay. I don't want to understand what happened that day. I just don't want it to happen again.
Chloe wants to get out.
I just want my family to be safe.
Working at Burger King was an average job for a guy like me. Often the nights were quiet, with only a handful of customers coming in for a quick dinner before closing.
There are some blankets.
But on that particular night, the story I'm about to tell you was anything but ordinary. I was alone on the night shift, as usual, and the clock read 10 p.m. when it all started.
Lay straight up like that.
The night was cold and dark, and the rain was pounding on the windows of the restaurant, creating a gloomy atmosphere. I finished cleaning the tables and was about to close when I saw a lone man standing outside in the pouring rain. He wore a black jacket and a hat that hid half his face, but something about his posture sent a shiver down my spine. I still couldn't refuse entry to a customer, so I opened the door for him. The man walked in without saying a word, just staring at me with his cold, dark eyes. He ordered a hamburger and a soda, and I prepared his order. The atmosphere in the restaurant was strange, as if silence and tension had taken over the place. As I delivered his food, I tried to make friendly conversation, but the man didn't respond. He just kept staring at me. Something in his gaze made me uneasy, but I decided not to pay much attention to it. The man sat in a corner of the restaurant, alone, silent. I continued with my usual tasks, but I couldn't help but feel watched. A few minutes passed, and I noticed that the man didn't touch his food. He just sat there, looking at me. I felt uncomfortable, as if I were in a scene from a horror movie. Finally, I decided to approach him and ask if everything was okay. I walked up to his table and spoke to him. "Is everything all right, sir?" The man looked up, but instead of answering, he smiled in a disturbing way. It was a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and his teeth looked sharp as knives. At that moment, I knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't just let it go. The man finally spoke, and his voice was soft and creepy. "I like your restaurant. It's a good place to be alone." I didn't know what to answer, so I just nodded and walked away from his table. I walked back to the counter, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling that came over me. The night was slowly progressing, and the man was still sitting in his corner, not touching his food. I decided to call the manager and tell him what was going on. But the call was mysteriously cut off before I could say a word. I felt like I was trapped in a silent nightmare. I decided to take a break and headed for the bathroom. I needed a moment to regain my composure. While I was in the bathroom, I heard footsteps outside. As I came out, I saw the man walking around the restaurant, looking at everything as if he were inspecting every nook and cranny. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't stay hidden in the bathroom forever. When I returned to the counter, the man approached and finally broke his silence. "You have an interesting place here. I like it a lot." His words were unsettling, and his gaze kept boring a hole into me. I didn't know how to respond, so I simply said thank you, trying to remain calm. The clock struck midnight, and the man still wouldn't touch his food. At that moment, I realized I couldn't let this continue. I asked him if he needed anything else, if he was satisfied with his dinner. "I need you to show me the kitchen."
Nina is all about keeping good energy in the room. From her happy cats to being good energy smart, like replacing all her bulbs with LEDs.
Not scared, I'm just getting hot.
More good energy tips at idahopower.com/save.
No, I guess you don't.
You believe these aren't her real teeth? Aspen Dental's dentures are custom, natural looking, and secure. Right now, you can get 25% off dentures. Come in and see what your new smile could be. Book your Aspen Dental appointment today.
I need you to show me the kitchen. My heart began to pound. I was not allowed to show customers the kitchen, and something about the way he was asking made me even more uneasy. I politely explained that I couldn't do that it was against restaurant policy. The man was unfazed. He simply got up from his chair and started walking towards the kitchen. I reacted as quickly as I could and started to press the panic button behind the counter. But I didn't know if it was working. The button didn't react and didn't make any sound. Who knows? Maybe it didn't work months ago. Maybe it never worked. Terrified, I made a really bad decision. Driven by pure fear combined with my survival instinct, I ran after him, trying to stop him. I begged him not to come in, but he wouldn't listen. When he reached the kitchen, he stopped and started looking around as if he was looking for something. I felt trapped between my duty to protect the restaurant and the fear that was gripping me. The man walked over to one of the meat cleavers we had in the kitchen and picked it up. At that moment, I knew I had to do something. I grabbed a frying pan and prepared to defend myself, even though it was clear I was at a disadvantage. Do you know what silence is, kid? Silence can be scary. Right. The man advanced towards me, his blade held high. I prepared to defend myself with the frying pan, but it was useless. Laughing, he pulled the pan out of my hand as if I were a child playing with something dangerous. Like a cornered animal, I fell to the ground crying, accepting my fate, aware that I couldn't do anything to defend myself against this man. In retrospect, I could have tried to run. I could have thrown myself at him. Anything would have been better than just giving up like that. But you know, it really is impossible to act logically in that situation. All I could think of was that a few hours earlier I was at home, getting dressed for a boring workday, thinking about what to eat when I get home. Suddenly, it was all over. Now I was condemned to death by a man I didn't know. His motives were totally unknown. I was just simply going to be the victim of a sick man who was going to kill me for fun. As if knowing what I was thinking and how defeated I felt, the man left the knife on the table and began to rub his hands across my neck, enjoying every second in which I couldn't defend myself. At that moment, I realized something even more terrible. The knife was just to scare me more, but he never intended to use it. I mean, he didn't need to. He just wanted to torture me, to make my death last as long as possible. I could see in his face, in his sick and twisted eyes, how he was going to enjoy what he was about to do to me. Slowly, the man put his hands on my neck. I could feel the veins in his hands getting more and more pronounced, while very slowly, his hands applied pressure to my neck. Little by little, I began to lose my breath. The force in his hands was getting stronger and stronger. What would happen first? Would I die of suffocation? Would my neck break? All I could think about was my family, my girlfriend, my pet. What were they doing right now? Could they have imagined that I was about to die? My vision started to get blurrier. I was fainting. But then, suddenly, the sound of police sirens became audible outside. The man stopped and listened. For a moment, the tension in the kitchen vanished. Police lights flashed outside, and we heard the officers enter the restaurant. The officers approached the man and detained him. Apparently, the emergency button worked and alerted my boss, who saw on the cameras everything that was going on. The man was arrested and taken out of the restaurant in handcuffs. He didn't say a word as he was led away, but his cold stare and disturbing smile remained etched in my mind. After he was taken away, calm returned to the restaurant. My manager arrived soon after, concerned and relieved at the same time. I explained what had happened, and he thanked me for taking steps to protect the place. He assured me that the man would not cause trouble again, but I was no longer interested. I would never set foot in that Burger King again. Although the man was arrested, I never knew who he was or why he'd come to the restaurant that night. The experience left me with a lingering sense of unease and fear. The silence and the look of the psychopathic man stayed with me long after he was taken away. That night of terror at Burger King was an experience I'll never forget. I learned that sometimes evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, and that silence can be more terrifying than any scream. Since then, I never looked at a hamburger the same way again. And I always made sure the doors to my house were locked at night, because I couldn't help but feel that sooner or later, that man would come back to my house to finish what he started.
The date was June 15th, 2014. My team and I had decided to finally investigate the old asylum that stood alone and abandoned in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Just
This
seeing
particular
guys.
abandoned asylum had been the talk of the town for
Dude,
many
I
years
just
prior, with multiple stories and myths.
10
The
minutes
most
ago.
famous being about students who snuck in and were found days later completely silent and void of themselves. According to the locals, the government followed up by launching an investigation, sending officials to uncover what had happened. But their findings were so grave, they decided to sweep the case under the rug, hiding all students, parents, and officials who entered the asylum. The case was eventually buried, and the asylum was completely sealed off as toxic and harmful. The history of the asylum, while it was functioning, was still unknown, and the details of the students who explored it after it was abandoned are also unknown. My name is Jacob Benedict, and these are the details of how my team and I uncovered the terrifying secrets of the Williamsburg Abandoned Asylum. My team consisted of 5 individuals, including me, and at the time, we'd only been
Hey guys, we're gonna stop the video because none of us are getting scared. So make sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye. Bye.